you in the eye and say, thank you, 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 thank you for the commitment you're making to this process. When I realized, my goodness, we've been together 4 times and we're starting tonight to really get some mojo around what is this plan going to take shape and look like. I thought to myself, wow, you've really done a lot of heavy lifting. More than anything else, thank you for the time that you are giving up from your families and other things that would bring you joy to be with us and help on this process. It is greatly appreciated. Thanks for that. So as we look at tonight, we've got a very simple agenda. We're going to really just spend a lot of time in number 3, which is getting us thinking about what are the big, I'm going to use the word, the big buckets of this plan going to look like. And again, it's premature because we haven't seen the results of the strategic plan survey, but that's really meant to validate and then change course. And I would say change course on a tweaking basis, not on a huge basis. So I think that we are in very good place for us finishing in May like we need to, and that's with you being here. So always like to quickly review the norms, and as we think about this, and you do a great job of this, but tonight you're going to be spending most of the evening working in a small group. Really important that yours isn't necessarily the loudest voice at the table, but that there's equal voices at the table. And I always think that your job as a committee member is invite participation. If you see someone sitting back, ask, what do you think about this? Or would you move in this direction? Is this the way you think it should go? Invite that participation, and that would be good. And another thing that you can have in the back of your brain is number 5. In fact, our closing exit ticket is about being an ambassador. We are going to be launching the strategic plan survey, and your job, if I ask you to do this, please, is think about how can you encourage participation at the building level, in the community, with family, friends, etc. How can you be an ambassador for that process and tell people, and you know this more than anyone, you can say this from your heart, we look at the data. It's not like you're going to take it and it's going to sit on a shelf. We use it. So please, have your voice heard. So, since we'll be doing a lot of sitting in stations tonight, let's stand up, and let me give the directions first. Let's stand up, just don't forget. I'm terrible at giving directions. I try so hard. Let's stand up and find someone to talk with, someone who you have not spent a great amount of time with in small groups in this session, and look at the minutes that are on your table. This is the 2 charts that were in the minutes, and as you look at them, this is the work you did last time, synthesizing the strengths. And I always love when that happens and you see things over and over and over again that 4 groups brought up or whatever. Please take a moment and with a partner, when you look at the minutes on strengths, what surprised you and what's something you should be in the strategic plan based on what's there? And then similarly, on the back side of the minutes, you'll see the same thing with opportunities for improvement. Would you again look at that and say, what surprised you? Just have a conversation. And what's something you should believe might be in the strategic plan based on those opportunities? And then just as that comes to a close, what's something you've liked about our meetings thus far? We've had 3. What's something you've liked about this process? And what are you looking forward to in the next 6 weeks as we look at the process? So this is just meant to get our brain into the minutes and the work. So I believe this, I don't know, Brian, what do you think? I'm thinking 8 minutes. How about if we find a partner? Feel free to walk and talk as well if you want to walk a little bit. That would be great. Just make sure that you are back in 8 minutes, and I've got 6:05. Or just stand. Either way. Go.
Sure, we can.
Hi. I'm going to make it super easy.
I'll send you down. You mean staff? That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yes.
And we just talked about, we talked about what's going on.
I think just like a generality, not any
Look at 2. You look at this?
this is and I don't, like, I think at face value, it's free. But I mean, I feel like that a lot of these, so it's great when you,
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things.
it's interesting that it being like from a tax school to use. Right. So that's kind of the only thing I was like, we didn't get something like what we did was for comments to learn in a more comments.
Sure.
And that really was great, but what's the?
Please don't.
So I think things that, you know, we should lose sight of, even though that maybe like missing strength, like for instance, you know, digital literacy, some of those things, party participation, these are things that people like, but you would put in the plan, just don't lose sight of the things that you yeah, because on the flip side, we talk about, you know, don't wait for, you know, don't wait for a piece of plan to start thinking about your communication, or to create about something we should be doing now, so.
And I'm retired as I thought my name for a more of a minority. Something about television came up a lot more years ago. Social
Trying to be real. So you like the
Yeah, I think you're gonna have a teaching, learning, a workforce engagement, and a community.
I don't feel like that though, should I talk, if we're talking about student.
Right, and I think that's where you are, that was underneath activities.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, like, when you teach them, right, yeah.
But what if that was something that we focused on with other theaters that are?
I've never worked on plan.
Does that arrange to learn? That's huge.
Yeah, and at the end of the day,
I was surprised that came up with it here.
trying to do is just take those things.
I think,
Well, it's from the, correct, it's going to the board.
right now,
Yeah, so is that what we talk about?
it's just, it's everything.
Steve is asking the board about, because right now it's you have to opt in about 50 to
Yeah.
40% half market opt out of it, over half. So we feel it's important, what's the goal post, create a class that is family or the board can spend away with, what can we agree on?
Put some good words around that. I know in the survey we tried not to more self-regulation, so I tried to really avoid
That's for sure.
the lightning of this word.
Exactly. Like you see it.
Yeah, it's not that you don't care.
Yeah, in top of mind, yeah.
People want things to improve, but yet there's a lot
Yeah,
of
really,
these
the
things
only,
that
the only cohesive team coming out with the assumptions, there already is a workforce element.
Yeah, the staff.
Coming down. In terms of what actually the industry plan, I think it's
If you aren't on question 3, get there.
what they start with, and then trust the process. Trust the process. Okay, you wait. last time,
Some
we
things
did a
are
really
really
nice
well
job.
worked on.
Separate your body. You know, because you're gonna want to go. There's just a part of this. That's amazing. You know, that's a rough game. It's nice. Again, we did a lot of stuff. So you want to talk to them because when you start to talk about it, it's like a lot of fun. There's always, you know, two sides.
I mean,
Say, hey, what can we do?
make progress every meeting, right, from setting dates to, settling the questionnaire. So it seems like there's progress.
Yeah.
Still feel a little fuzzy about how much work here to
I'm interested to see what's it all is. So, how would we get that's really to your point. You're here. How are we gonna?
Yes.
And then looking forward to just getting more legs on this
Right. And I think that's
Yeah, yeah. It's more
I want to like
aware.
lock it in, and that's where the real work begins. So I'm excited.
You know, talk to some of the road and those are together. It's gonna be respectful.
yeah, because we're looking at because we need to know what our parameters are. Okay, then we know here's the game plan.
Or just set the long thing.
Or like green labs, 99, 19, there's a 9 in there.
what people think is good. That's my look on it.
One more minute.
Yeah, I was expecting to be on there as well.
We're not in case.
I mean, you're digging into the annual report from a budgeting perspective.
All right. Thanks for getting your head in the minutes. You've actually done the next piece. Are there any questions about the minutes from the last meeting? You now have the bulk of them. I mean, if you read the minutes, there's a little bit of verbiage around it, but this was the big piece of what we did last time. And so nice to get our arms back in it, because I think this can be useful for the activity tonight as we think about, okay, where do we want to head now as we move forward? Any questions on the minutes? Great, thank you. Tonight, we are going to spend most of our time in strategic plan objectives. Those objectives are the big buckets, I call them. And last time we were together, we talked about this, the big bucket topics, and that's where we're going to stick tonight. We're going to stick in these big bucket areas. And I want to be really clear. I don't know if in this plan we'll be calling these things this, right? We haven't decided if the pillar will be called this. And we can, once we know the goal and we get there, we can rename it. But we know we're going to have a pillar about serving students' needs. I mean, academic or whatever. We know there'll be a pillar about students. As Brian says, it wouldn't be a school district if we didn't have probably the main pillar, the first pillar being about students. We know we're going to have one on workforce. We know we're going to have one on community engagement. I don't know what this one will be called yet for number 4, operations, and we don't know if there'll be an other yet, or will it all fall into that one. We've still got some things we don't know, but we know 3 things rock solid. We're going to have one on students, and I'll be so bold as to say at least one. We know we're going to have one on workforce, and we know we're going to have one on community. What they're going to be called, we don't know yet, but we know we've got things that will be in those big areas. And last time I talked with you about this using my English teacher analogy, but I really wanted to add to this week. You're going to be focusing, as you work in your small groups tonight, on the strategic objective areas. The strategic objective wording And it's basically just a thing. It doesn't have to be a phrase. So for example, it could be staff recruitment and retention, right? Staff recruitment and retention. The big thing that is the litmus test of that is, can that stay in the plan for 5 years? Even though the action plans may vary from next year, 2024, to 2028. Can we work on faculty and staff retention for 5 years? I'm just gonna say, I think the answer to that is yes. But that's your job tonight, is thinking about what are those big bucket topics that really we want to be focusing on for 5 years. Does that make sense? And then underneath it, the supporting detail in an English essay, the table legs, are the action plans. Those may change year by year, right? You may do a salary study next year, this year. You may then implement a new structure in 2 years. The supporting table legs may change, but the big strategic objective area stays pretty darn constant. And so that's why it's so important we anchor these really well, because you might finish it in less than 5 years, but you want to be thinking with that lens of, this is big work that's going to take us a while, and we're going to chip away at it year after year after year, and maybe do some different work, but we are going to be focused on this for a long time. So let me pause. Does that make sense to you? Good, good. All right. All right, here we go. I'm terrible at giving directions, but we're going to give it our best shot right now. In this activity, you're going to move to 4 stations, and it goes counterclockwise. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you will work in all stations and move counterclockwise. Spending about 8 minutes in each station, give or take, thinking about what are the strategic objectives based on what I believe and we believe might be there for teaching and learning, for students. What about workforce? What about community engagement? What are those big bucket areas? Now here's the piece that I want you to think about. We actually have buckets for you to write on, because I'm a very graphic person. I love the bucket idea, the bucket analogy. There are big buckets. So as you think about that, you'll write on a bucket, but I don't want you to leave them out. I'm going to collect them before you leave, because what we're curious to find out is, are we seeing the same patterns, group after group after group? I have a feeling we will be, but that's a really good test for us, is do a lot of people have, and I don't want to taint it, but staff retention and recruitment? I mean, is that one that you're going to see? Does that make sense? So we're not going to share the buckets so that everyone sees it and goes, yep, because then by the 4th one, everyone's just going, yep, that sounds good to me. And that's not what we want. We want everyone engaged in all 4 areas. Now, are those directions clean? All right, so here we go. If you have a cheetah, who has cheetahs? You're going to start in group 1. If you have a fox, foxes start in group 2. If you have a camel, you're in group 3, over at station 3 over there. And if you have a zebra, you are starting in station 4. Make sense? So get there, and then we'll talk through things.
Hi, how's it going?
I just repeated it.
I want to make sure that we've got fairly representative groups.
Yeah.
All right, listen up. Take a stack of 4 buckets. Now, I want you to think about this. You don't have to use all 4 buckets, but you can. But if we agree that every strategy area, every pillar has 4, at the bare minimum you've got 16 areas, which is a lot. So we'll have to cull a little bit. But for now, no more than 4, write on a bucket. Each table's writing 4.
Yes.
And then I'm going to collect them before you rotate, because I don't want the next group to see them.
Because
So only 4 of those buckets.
So like we're not.
You're writing 4.
One group
4 buckets.
Correct.
Leave the rest for the others.
Correct.
All right.
Oh,
Just
thank you for
making sure.
clarifying that, Nicole. Like I say, direction, you'd think I'd be good at it. It's just,
Would you like to borrow mine?
all right, are we ready?
I only write with pencil.
Come on, we're gonna be fun. We can write
Go.
Problem is from here.
Okay. So from a community.
So now we're trying to find ideas that should go into the workforce engagement. Ideas that people can work on. Okay.
I would say based on all the things that we have. I don't know if we can combine them or do it separate, but staff.
You can submit to
That's not the first time.
It's like that's like the 100% cover.
I think that
The comms, grab the comms. I do think.
traction.
I always think about it in chronology, just to give you a sense, you know, think about it. How do we attract, how do we hire, how do we onboard, how do we retain, how do we develop? You know, I mean, it's almost like a lifespan. If you think about it, you have to run some of those things.
But I think that's what it is. Identify. Executing on that communication system. So like it's really creating some words together. See, I told you. I was like, you make up words, I make up.
Which is getting more difficult. It's difficult to keep people in there. Because we were talking about to keep it. Swallow is like a rule of 80.
We do not have
You take a look
a
at
strategy or
people who've been here for, you know, maybe 10 years, 12 years. Three of them they're
I
already,
could never do that.
I couldn't get it, or they could hear it unless I want to work until I'm 63. Yeah, I mean, that's truly, yeah, to me, no thanks.
I think better understanding.
But, you know, if the young person,
Better
thank
understanding
goodness.
of how their tax dollars are being spent, and should the school regulate to go to them for a referendum, they're at least aware of like, okay, you know, right now we're financially sound,
But the other
this,
piece
this,
of
and
that
this,
is you
and
just
they
also
already
have
know
to
why.
funding.
And that's just one example, like,
And so we'll ask.
Well, our topic is, well, paid time off is probably, because that's something that's. Employee benefits.
I think there's.
And that's a discussion we can have.
I'm making a lot of sense.
This place, now it's gonna drive me.
How do you incentivize people for not? I have great friends. Our average teacher, now I have come out.
Now I have, I'm sure they do.
Not a good person. Nope. So the average teacher is going to be.
but I think also, I mean, the minority of the school is.
So we put a proposal
First
out there that the longer you're here,
And
you have
I've
options.
noticed just with Natalie
You know,
now
sick
being a
days can still
freshman,
accrue up to
how
60.
much you aren't
But
aware of
after,
what's going on in the
if you've been here for, let's say, 10 years,
You're not
you do
getting
2 personal,
those weekly
10
emails
sick,
or
3 personal, 8 sick,
On the line that
4 personal, and 5
a
sick.
girl I chatted with until
So, kind of rewarding longevity.
she was just saying
Those who
how
make the
held
roll
the street teacher in this class.
So choose the 4 personal, 5 sick.
There's only 6 people in the class.
You have 5 sickness.
It's like,
If
so it's
you
not
have
a
6
lot.
days, but you have the personal,
Like, how do you
or it's an unpaid.
communicate that better? Because I would have liked that. Sure. As a parent in this,
So, to do this personal. So, I think, big picture here is I think time off is a significant, because that's what we have in the private sector, is how do you balance
More, it builds that
research that's teachers most important, even after 10 absences, because you're being back.
just gives them a sense of like they know what's going on in their community, or is it inviting?
So,
We agreed on
and again, that's an attraction.
So we don't
But
have to
no,
keep
it's
selling
an
it.
attraction thing for young people,
She made up words.
because we offer, in this proposal, we're gonna offer
I
free
see,
personal.
so were you trying to say like how are we quantifying like that?
You know, it's like normal too, but we're gonna be free, like almost the opposite. But, because that's what you're getting.
Got about 4 more minutes to get those buckets done.
like pull on the thread of like branding and how we want to brand districts of perspective. And this will show up as like. Oh, no, I just like waxing the floor.
I guess what I'm saying is,
How we can better show up. You know, you talk about like
request for days off.
Correct, yeah.
It's weird, how it kind of like affects
And
the
then be
next.
accessible, visibility.
Culture, climate.
Yeah.
What's our outreach?
Seems like it kicks off, and Mr. Kirk always tells us. I woke up, looked in the mirror and said, I don't feel real good. I don't see myself moving around today. Our teachers were, again, we had 15 teachers. And they were like, yeah, we have people to just choose not to come to work, either on Friday or Monday. They just is a general. They should get, the sick days, if you're not gonna pay people, good use them, like,
You're getting an action plan.
So I think, for this one, the retention, I think one bucket
Plan
is
to
retention,
foster increase.
retention strategies, I would call it.
Yes.
Personal.
We put on a really good way, right? How is the
Strategies.
community- I would come and see them still.
New action. Attraction, and activity. That comes in the form of, if it's, what separates you, whether it be personal time, maybe give me more personal time. We have options for you to pay out your personal time for 5 years.
Visibility.
Build brand awareness.
PTO and its salary, obviously. We have no problem for attracting.
All right, one more. Right.
Professional learning plan,
Yeah.
professional development plan. What do you do to coordinate? We talk about the life cycle. Retirement.
It was just funny because I was just
Retention strategy.
struggling with control. But I totally agree. It makes it seem.
I don't think, I don't know. The only way that I can kind of see that working in a strategic planning process.
Are you kidding, or is it?
No, that was fun.
Like, what are those themes that we're gonna, like, what are those foundational elements that we're gonna
Life cycles.
So when I read that, I initially go to the, like, the bottom bucket, like, controlling the narrative, like, that would be part of.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's more tactics. This is turning the line on actually wanting, like,
I mean, I feel like
brand is really just,
that puts a lot of.
Got a minute left before you switch up.
Retention is celebration.
if that has those words have to be present in your
Celebration.
people need to see those words and tie it back.
Finishing up.
But like tie it back for once they see words like resilience or support.
It's a retention strategy, but I think you can focus around.
All of the messaging, and that's how you help. Do you think there needs to be like a
Softer way.
separate from like brand awareness and inclusivity when there's more of a specific plan to build actual connections? I think those are the legs, like that's like year one, it's like. We
So
don't
one
need, we
that
don't
you
need
tell
to
me what it is, like one that stands out to me is Trash Beyond Arrowhead.
All right, we're gonna collect the buckets, things you bucketized, and we'll be moving counterclockwise to the next table.
A lot of families
Okay,
also.
thank you. All right, you got your set here. Thank you. Moving counterclockwise, you got your bucketized stuff. That's fine. No, you can say another.
Do you want to take our extra bucket or we donate it to the next group?
We'll use it, Nicole. We'll use that bucket.
All right. Yeah, I know it came down, yeah. I get a vote on it.
We'll let you know when it's at. Thank you.
Thanks for warming the seat.
Absolutely.
You're gonna put me in the night one?
Religious education teacher, and because I thought, I can do this. Before, I learned that I was not good at children cannot group themselves. When you were able to say, get in a circle, and they couldn't do it, I was like, I'm out. I was like, totally out. That was not for me. So,
Because you, that next table you.
right, I was not. Oh, no. I was like, really bad. This is not for me. So God knows, I don't think I was doing Jesus' work, but we were in the midst of an introduction. And so I just remember bringing lots of manipulatives to religious ed with me. Because it was like, okay, I can keep them busy and teaching them, teach in the moments because, right. Correct. That was me. Okay, I'll let you know.
Church is over?
Okay, fine. It'll be this and this, and Easter and spring, so it's renewal, and we're gonna. Well, it may be already.
Is it preach? Like, that's a very real.
Workforce engagement.
Yep.
I would put it the same way, like yours, some of your subdivision wasn't built yet, now it's like.
That's right.
Probably, or running sometimes, but I'm not so big.
That too, right, how many are you?
So that, so it's, yeah, so that's something.
About
And there's a lot of houses, like, it's just, it's understanding like that kind of, like, if they would be really good at that. Because
They're very interested.
and that was like one of the readout lines. Their kids, no, it's like their kids are older, so high school, they go to private school. Like it's older people actually get outside, into the smaller yard.
You don't have,
I know that was how that.
you have to have at least one.
But like the maintenance of the yard, whatever, right? So there's some interesting things when we.
Class or whatever this there is. Community stop doing that and looking at that. Poorly paid teachers will not say.
Yep.
So our society is to which saying that you love what you do isn't enough. Because if it was enough, our turnover, not just
About 5
the state and in the nation,
Just was trying to
no longer.
the primary.
You're right.
I'm good over there, I was good with those words, you are clearly more. All right.
Okay.
The words you're using.
A big bucket. Tell me when you're ready for me to write.
Bucketize it.
Like, I'll call the first weather group. Short West. And say, hey, you want some information on our.
Yeah, right, that's our issue. So our issue is that there are those choices.
So I didn't.
Am I writing it? Follow up?
you know, if you're at that level, yeah.
Academic.
Like even up here, the private homes, they want to, they said no. You go out, walk around, have beer, have a table, they're like, no.
The leg,
Well, because
I can dig into the legs of that much. I don't receive it.
this is your public school, if you want to sell these crazy
But you would, so for instance, if
two different times. In a way, because one of them is just an operable. So what do you mean by promote any organization? I think having one just for just a huge budget, because that's probably our biggest clientele.
Yeah, that's what they do, that's what I was.
That's all it is.
Oh, well, I see capital asset, I think that's the roles that are being very stressed, like, I can't over and I say. You're gonna like that, because there's positions right all that level.
You could do board of brush.
I remember one of the things they say.
You could do board of brush. You could easily run a cooking class. You got a free station, you know, kitchen.
this is actually.
You've got fitness class. I mean, you got a lot of things that I can't do. There's,
Opportunity for correction, and that's the thing that we're preventing. So ways that multicultural does that. It is.
oh, very well. Yeah, those are things.
Somebody asked, because that's what people do here.
There's a lot of people. Yeah.
But also,
So the interest is still there.
which means they want to say,
I think it's the
modernize.
they would make.
Yeah, like that's kind of where I'm like.
You need to write all that down in this little bucket, because if you just say build a culture,
We'll get to flesh those pieces out later, right?
but unless you're there, they're not
Go
gonna
with
do it.
from an operation.
Yeah.
That's part of it, you know, from a facility.
There's a lot of talk about that, but I think that number one is.
Oh, no.
Yes, so I've heard,
It's
that,
like,
No, he just
can I go over some of these, I mean, I don't.
like, are there other things?
Remax? Is it Michael? Is his first name? That's Remax.
Or, you know, some of the things.
No, he's a young kid. He's got a first season. He's a young kid.
Yeah, like,
Right.
Yeah, yeah, let's sit down with the district or at least showcase, hey, your school calendar.
You don't think it's just lip service. Right, I'm struggling for words here.
Well, Joanne can make some up for you. Bucket ties.
And I'm not just thinking college, I'm thinking.
So we have education plan.
This is a culture is what you have used to word. It's an atmosphere or a building the feeling.
Lots of that comes to mind what you're talking about. Professionalism, or treatment of professionalism, or treatment of trust.
Like, it was hard because there was.
Professional is a good word.
Because one of the things that I worry about is that our teachers are not considered professionals and we underline. So, yes, thank you, Brett. The rebuilding is a rebuilding. So I have
Which was like.
professional development is very.
It's like,
I've met a lot of people, people that went to high school took one language, but people that went to college took master's.
I think it should stay on.
If you don't go through and see something just, like I knew it was like, don't even want it.
question on this, but another question
But
about
I question that with like.
So I did talk to them, we had a talk about
radiation.
We do.
Maybe
She would say they want to be more engaged, so actually, so we started to talk about more communication of flyers, or a, a postal application. They want to.
One more minute.
Trick or treat's important.
Validate, professional.
You guys go talk to Bruce.
Oh, you got a minute? Something more, I mean,
Maybe that's a is a partnership.
We'll get to it.
Not to say the other ones already.
People need another.
I think so too. One more minute.
I do something about doing it easy.
Compensation.
Compensation benefits.
Right.
Solutions operation of facilities, we've got teaching and learning, workforce engagement, and community engagement. We're gonna do this.
No, because again,
Yeah, I understand.
Conversation we had yesterday, I don't know how that went.
Yeah,
About
yeah.
how, but I can't do that if there's no different trust.
It's such a.
funny, everybody has that word. I'm like,
Because that's true too. Give teachers the idea of what you want to do. Give them ideas and have manual committees, which inform committees.
Yeah.
Let them think of what's going on.
But then,
Because those are your real estate. Then they're going to be more apt to that.
All right, I'm gonna come by and collect again, we'll see.
All I know is we have 4 buckets,
Counterclockwise.
4 out of this group.
Well, we on the last one?
It's not a competition.
Not a competition.
so I still have my mulligan.
We were this close to using your bucket. We're gonna save your bucket for that.
All right, okay, yours, thank you.
I have 4 buckets.
Joanne, Nicole was like, use her extra bucket.
No extra buckets.
I told her she couldn't keep
We've
it.
been leaving our buckets for
Nice.
other people.
No, we don't want other.
Our buckets aren't big enough.
When are you guys ready on your buckets? When it was the right time?
she was,
Now you are at.
Take a look at it.
Got the timer?
Here, you know, you have to take your facility.
yeah.
Difficult to operate, when you think about infrastructure. That's all in our utilizing technology.
I invited everybody. Ron wanted me to make sure I did
At a minimum, if the job you're going to make, it's difficult to see at a minimum where it should be because we down without those things, that is what it is. So it's
involved. Well, kidding out, you should be like, or because I would just call it.
fair, competitive,
It's also like, you stuff,
you jump to this, but also jump to this, and force you to do it. His goal is, I want you to make communication. And now there's stages like that, so that's what it's continue to go up, and they will. So, what if we the states can start pulling their states program.
so the other side of it is, you're gonna have to take school taxes on that. Number one, I mean, not to do, but number two, to see the school in the parade.
Now, it used to be
part of that.
just this, and I know it goes in.
Maybe that's just.
Because this is the only thing that's I'll tell them. So this year I feel that about for people who have no interest ever except my taxes. The village is
I think also, when I think of community, using the facility, they were going to school for other
that's why.
yeah. Soccer, oh, you've seen them. I know, I just don't know when that's.
Which is with me.
They're playing soccer in the gym, or they're sitting.
Money, so the steps when you're teaching to learn,
I go.
communication. You started at 43, so. The numbers are better.
Where you play sports. I let them know too. I don't even care if they're not.
Yeah, continue. There you go, that's about, yeah, continued evaluation. Mark, our HR director had a filled-in schedule. That could be, if I was a year old, really want to is right around those. Placing some projections for that, right, and placing, so, so that way, research, you know, if you go to UWS, well, it also has its importance.
Files are all in place. So for the buckets, I think.
I think we'll get up to, so that's what we've already had, we've been able to, you know, because when it gets down to usage or conversation market stuff, we've got to make market adjustments. We had people, once in a while, the market adjustments, like research gets into that. But a number of kids in the classroom don't have it without a strong, and there's those consequences, you don't teacher, elementary teachers. If you want to retention on this, you have to have money system somewhere. So you go from 5 sections of 17, 18 to 4 sections of 15. Talking to Dr. Shaw, talking, you know, talking to somebody. That's about what years that
Always are small. Just think of, 2 years back, we used to have more like,
yeah, I've got one.
maybe if you could.
Well, you got the one in the village right over here, by the church, that one. You got the one, oh, you got about 80 acres, that's true.
Yeah, but that's more than just one thing about, I have to say, weekend thing, like, you know, this, you know, this, I know, but carnival, like outside, community members might want to come, so there's food trucks for weekends.
So it's, you know, the growth.
Or people see it, you know, know that there's
Another feeders who had no. Some people might want 3,000, but now you have the average just market adjustment because the way the
could maybe be a bucket. And then I would think if we could just do another one.
Brookfield Academy, grab straight from the
That's. But this is a big bucket, I think it's supposed to be a big.
It's time.
A couple more minutes before we move.
Next time we'll see.
I'll think about that, okay.
Still won't do it, but you'll think.
I might, I wouldn't mind it.
I don't like driving, I drive equipment all the time, I don't drive during the parade. I live up, I have many people in the back.
When you go to the museum, because really the
Stuff was clean, the band, yeah, on the.
Communication maybe?
Yeah, we should. The newsletter.
I was saying that, my mom just got one from the Park Lakeside. And it reminded me, like, I remember getting those. It's like, it was really nice. And it highlighted what the schools do. Highlighted, they were on the report card, they were number 6.
Word contrary got my
Or 6,
attention.
5, 7, close to us, but I mean, it highlighted some of that. So like, my mom, 85 years old, like, okay, now I know what the schools do.
Yeah.
I would rather be able to take, right, I could take, you know, 2 4-day weekends in my career.
We got 3 so far.
Oh, really?
One more minute.
Before it was that flexibility, over having a bunch of people around the same like, that.
Epiphany, you got another one there.
It's a legal process. Because you have to process all the.
Another one, if we did do another one, I think another one would be, I do this a lot. I know the village very well. I use their area all the time. I use it with Merton. So I think
That would
it's,
be more interaction.
well, that's such a broad process. Yeah, no, yeah.
That's what you're talking about.
It's not really an interaction.
The only thing
That'd be better than interaction.
the only thing that's changed at the state is trying to continue to
Partners.
Well, so we do interaction. Interactions with the community themselves, partners are people that also have their tax-paid, tax-funded organizations that help you all. That's what I think. Because community, this is interaction with actual families, not.
Because you can't consolidate work, like, when you say. You still do legal support, so.
One more
That's
minute.
similar, so these two are similar.
How do you balance that out?
Those two, these two
How do you
are.
say that like?
So what I can tell you is the best way to do this is
More outreach, right?
significant incentive. 1.2 your revenue.
Interaction and partners.
And then 1 of that.
Yep.
So then
All right. Time to move on.
It needs to be like, they need their, or whatever. They need our, whatever.
Yeah.
Right, but I mean, so that's kind of how.
I know that.
You are a good dense thinker. I love you.
Yeah, very dense.
Look at us waiting on this table again.
Come on, Mary, move along. Got another table.
Mary?
Goodness.
conversation's too rich.
I'm here. It's going great.
I got lots of ideas coming out tonight.
I like that everyone wants one more.
I know, I mean, I
I got that out, and growing up, my mom would end up taking off things and like putting up stripes on us, like you're not supposed to. Yeah. She's walking like this, I don't have anything, I'm not nice feeling it. Absolutely. So this is. Okay.
Well, throw your feelings out.
You're emotionally connected, but you can't.
You know, this is hard, you know, like, she only wanna, like, give me the podcast, so then, he was my one, that's not. They wouldn't, but,
It was right there.
you know, human nature, you know, well, okay, it was more for a little while, now it's what I'm used to, it wasn't now. Everybody acclimates their
K5, ABC, we need to solve.
You're an accountant, marketing. Well, that's kind of easier, but very cool.
Yeah, I mean, like, free pizza fries.
That's awesome.
Well, yeah, they have a 5-year-old playing down.
People are gonna go where they're there's one bucket on that. Then there's driving for like then there's staff engagement, like the Friday. And those are like the best buckets that I've seen that
You want to hear it?
Really, is it?
But similar to that is a team.
I think looking at this, which is hard, that or you heard just the Friday flyer, like now I see in the community, you know, we could add something that could add my.
Sometimes you just wonder.
So, how do you? So what do you work for? How do you get one claiming? How do you feel about
No, I mean, for the right now.
Oh.
Also stream.
I think it's
Doesn't matter if you see what's going on. You see something going on.
strategy, like you're going to study. That's what I mean, I think that it's the comp isn't the lead, isn't the table, comp is the lead. That's what, yeah, like recruitment and retention is the table, in my mind, but then you're going into, like, if comp is the lead.
It rolls down the tracks to the gas station.
It just, you don't know.
Oh, no.
Partake in the steps and lanes. that. So that way, if Ashley started, she would know if we did do this plan in 5 years, you would know exactly what you're gonna make. And we don't go into different negotiations and there's different stepping stones for that and all that. It has to do with the union, so I'm just throwing out there, I would love to do teacher confirmation. It's far more complicated than like, so I'm not poo-pooing the idea, we just have to. Be competitive.
To learn on their own.
That is a good point. What we're doing now might not help.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Are you still compensation and benefits?
We have 4 buckets, so.
Well, so 3 weeks Friday.
No, but if we do PTO instead of sick days, where you don't have to return that Thursday, they can just take a day. Where other schools don't offer that, or do we offer childcare for a reduced rate for the staff versus, like, I know Heartland is doing that right now. So there's other, I mean, and those are small, like, hurts the leg.
I actually, yes, I couldn't find this, I know I'm putting it on a piece of bread.
So we have one store pictures, and I have all the different ones.
I think you're.
17. You don't? Well, yeah. Well,
Yeah, yeah.
What was it, benefits and? Again, I'm not trying to poo-poo anybody's
That was a good
ideas.
insight though, like I hadn't thought of it.
Yeah.
I think that this fostering environment of trust and engagement is completely different from those.
Yes, I agree.
And it may or may not be the same as their culture.
I do put that in, fostering, staff, or workforce engagement, culture, like I think all of those are the same thing. Yes, like.
So the third bucket is.
And now you need to like grow it. You might need to build it.
Build and foster.
Right.
Coming out the other side with it.
We want to do like little more.
Yeah.
Okay, so shoot them at.
The usually
Our new musicians, our playing musicians, trying to get staff grandparents' days, those things like the veterans.
One more minute, says the bad direction giver, maybe 2.
That's part of engagement, right? It's not just right. I mean, we make work just fun. I like enjoy it.
I mean, I'm just wondering, like, things that
Trying to find a way to reinvest in your.
Yeah, reinvest in staff.
Yeah.
So we're gonna need a little more time, it looks like.
We still need to work. It's right. Constructive.
community involved.
Constructive conversations, like accept. Do you see where I'm trying to?
I don't want to
Not necessarily grandparents, all the kids, but like.
Yeah, Alexi's?
Yeah, like, or like, oh, like if you're struggling, continue learning, and stuff like that. Bring your best. Yeah.
We have a step program. You guys good? What's that? Are you guys good?
We're never quite good.
We'll always last, but we'll do.
It's okay to, it's okay to disagree. Maybe that's just too narrow.
Maybe it's a little trust-based.
Okay.
So it's like
All right.
Holding the table like. Yeah, I think so.
Okay, we got 2 out of 3. You guys good? Just 3 out of 4.
What's that?
All right. So, you are going to stay where you're at, and let me give you big picture instructions, and I need everyone's eyes on me. I was gonna do it. So, here's the task at hand. You are going to look over what everyone said were the buckets for the area where you're sitting now. So, you have teaching and learning, you have workforce, you have community engagement, you have facilities, finance, operations. And
Mess them up.
you are going to report out on 2 things. This is the big piece. You're going to report out on how did they group? You know, what did people write, right? So just give us the bare facts of what did people say. But now I'm going to press you, and Brian and I were thinking about this. Now I want you to think really hard, and you as a group are going to put your nickel down, and then we're going to continue as a large group next time. If you were going to say, these are the 2 things or the 3 things in this pillar that should be in the strategic plan. It doesn't need to be necessarily because people said it more often or not, but just as this is the important work. But here's the things that you need to think of, and I have them up here. Is this big enough work? So the first question is this 5 years worth of work under that pillar, right? That's the first question. Is it 5 years of work? The next one's a little bit harder, and I'm going to say it this way, and Brian, maybe you can help me. Is it operational or is it an action plan? Do you know what I mean by that is, if it's not 5 years of work, is it something that would undergird something? I love saying the word undergird, it feels slightly naughty. Is it something that would support a strategic objective, right? So like, for example, if you were going to do a compensation study, that to me would be an action plan under retention, right? It's not going to be 5 years of work to do a compensation study. It undergirds retention. So we're looking for the big items that we're going to spend 5 years on. And the one that I don't want to lose sight on, because I haven't heard us talk mission language, are we talking about, is this advancing curiosity? Is this advancing academic excellence? Is this advancing some of those things in the mission? So think about that as you do it. And what I would love for you to do, and we'll spend like a good 15 minutes on this, is, as opposed to writing on buckets now, and if you need another sheet, write on the sheet. And if you need it, write on the poster paper. And if you need another one, get it. But you're putting your nickel down in 2 big areas. What did people say? What did the other 3 groups say? Where did you find commonalities? And if you were going to put your best foot forward, I want you to say, these would be the 3 buckets we'd recommend in teaching and learning. These are the 2 buckets we'd recommend here. This is the 1 bucket, this is the 3 buckets. And if you don't know, circulate and ask. Ask, walk around. Yes?
Are all the buckets we received supposed to be the buckets people did here?
Yes.
Okay, these are not them. Because these
I
are
think
some of
so.
our buckets from other tables.
Oh, sorry about that.
Question for you,
This
Joanne.
one-
Yes.
ours
Because I'm
came
visual.
over- this is
Do you
one we did
anticipate
over
this
here.
big sheet, it's divided into 2.
What'd I
One
give
is
you?
a summary of basically everything everyone said, and then we're putting our nickel down on.
I would love if you would do it on 2 sheets, and I'll give every group another sheet. That's a good way to do it.
Okay.
1 sheet with summary, 1 sheet with recommendations. 1 sheet with summary, 1 sheet with recommendations.
They're both saying, yeah, so that's what I was getting up on.
The other thing about operations, you might see something that you think is important, but it's really operational. You still want to write that off to the side so that we remember it. It's something that we should probably do, but it really isn't strategic. So if you want, don't throw away the operational things, just put it in a side bucket. Things we should do, but aren't strategic.
I even came up with a coaster that holds the table leg. Oh, she did. So do we think it's easier to start with a summary to write kind of down? Are there any duplicates?
Yeah, there's, so
Recommendations, when she was
This is a teacher.
when she was summary.
Retention or recruitment, recruitment, we only call that one.
I have prettier markers if anyone gets.
Well, then obviously it's going.
Two parts.
So on our, but the retention is about effectively.
Sure did the last one.
So recruitment could go with retention, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're different concepts, but only.
Yeah. That's how I understand it.
I don't know. Correct, is that more like? That's how I heard it.
But I still can't.
So we'll have to write the summary page.
No, I don't think this is.
Get that out of the way.
I mean, I need this goes later, about the whole big idea. How we whether or not it's.
Retirement is a little more.
This all, I think we've got a communication plan. How do we communicate?
So one of these is supposed to be,
What were the two pages? One was that? Two pages.
Yes?
We've got 2 pages. What are they for?
One for summary, one for recommendation.
I did, that was. Summary, basically we have 2 body life, I
But
told
we're
her.
looking at. What is money? Hey, money.
We're not ready.
It's for the sake of leaving.
I actually want an answer.
I like it.
So summary is no analysis. Summary is just, what did it say?
The bucket. It's summarizing.
That's what we're looking at. That's what we're gonna do right now.
This is all I
Oh, I'm not that.
Yes. So like a tabletop.
Exactly. Boom.
Roughly a Gantt chart would probably the wrong way.
Oh, he makes them though, that's what he does, so.
One of the big ideas.
I think of it as like my home.
Does that make sense?
Where I spend money at home.
Underneath it would be things like
That's the only thing I care about, like I
streamlining newsletters, looking at things.
But I think that this goes with that as well, the communication.
I don't know, make it 2 years to figure out the rhythm. That's what I need. That's the thing, yeah, exactly.
7 years ago.
So there's more. That one I want to automatic too. Spending money. Good.
That's not really.
You're just summarizing or collecting what the nurse says. And the distillation is working it out.
How many recommendations?
But that's part of it.
I don't need to put
No, just one.
Give it, what's the maximum number of recommendations?
Two or four, yeah.
That's perfect.
If there's four, it's kind of like you're, we'll probably look harder at it and make sure that they're big enough issues. So,
We got pretty detailed.
three is usually better. But, you know, sometimes you got issues that you feel strongly about that should be in the plan, and sometimes the four, you know?
Right, those would be all falling underneath, what are we gonna work on for the next 5 years? Yes. Fostering, areas are fostering.
Sorry, I moved the bar chart.
I can get there.
We'll summarize, and then we'll align different.
So we can color code with dots.
But I think you're
We have
honest,
parent university.
that there is almost, I think that you are right in saying.
And my
one of
super
the things
handwriting
that
with red
overall
marker,
work
I'm
for
sure.
5 years on
which is,
increasing,
could deal with
increasing
advocacy, could deal with all sorts
community
of
engagement.
things that have to do with resources in the future. And then there's another, which is, we need
That
to
would be
make
the
sure
work
we have a
of the
system to
strategic
allocate
plan,
those
that's the
resources
minutiae
for
we're
what
getting into,
is
But
important in the
just with the two
plan,
parts,
what we've identified.
you've got, look at your organizing theme here, so
I think it
that
is
is
two
just a
separate
reflection of what everybody said.
So there's
This
fiscal
page is,
sustainability, you know, which
would be a
is,
key
and
item.
again, when I think
Still
of what might be
to-
underneath that, legislative advocacy.
Write these on there.
yeah, I mean, if you get 6 of the same ones, you know,
We basically, it's
Very
very
fast.
narrow.
Is this facilities driven?
So this is what we, so this is where we have
Communication plan with
building facility plans, facility,
zero, and now, so this is very.
All right, worry about it.
And so maybe put facilities in parentheses.
We're using ours this week.
Promoting marketing awareness, things you
Correct. Are we
communication
calling
plan,
this pillars?
streamlining management.
I don't think we need to.
Part of the plan could be,
I think you
part of
can
this
call it
plan
that, but
could
we
be.
did not.
Yeah.
Call it that.
I just want a header.
Yeah.
Were there any multiples?
Oh, yes, this is the summary, yeah.
So put a star by the ones that were said by more than one
Oh,
group, just so that we
you're summarizing? All of them were said by more.
Yeah,
yeah. Awesome.
This is the entire list.
Additional duties, additional duties,
So,
duties assigned.
So we have promoting awareness, I think, streamline, like, family communication. And then a separate piece is like, how we're communicating with the broader.
Usually look at this, we want to do the table is what communication.
and these lines are.
Or we could just do some bullets, that could be the big one, bullets, the other big one
No, we run all the way.
Should we start with this because you're more empowering?
and then from there, we have different.
Educational opportunities.
Do the complement same way. So what do we want to call, are we starting with paid benefits, or are we calling attractive compensation plan?
Yeah, I like that, because then the next time we get the budget.
I like a compensation plan because I feel like it's comprehensive of benefits pay.
I would say you have, as I look, 5 more minutes? 5 more minutes, we'll see.
Do we have currently?
If we need more, it's okay.
We did do compensation for not attractive.
This one is,
We could do a
No, I can think one thing. I heard that now.
synthesize the budget.
Some bullets in the
You know what I guess?
Parents are one thing, that's and you're there in the community. Ones that serve one work.
I don't think it's built again.
Brian, so summarize.
We did summary.
Yep, and the other ones are recommendations, the big things that are.
You did the recommendation, huh? You did the recommendation.
We did?
Yeah.
Recommendation?
That's the recommendation.
Oh, we thought that was a summary.
The summary is simply what was offered by other groups.
Okay, that is all in there.
Then maybe you have one sheet.
There's not as much,
I don't think you're wrong in that.
Yeah, I think we can put more adjectives.
Feel that we're
Or we could say, something like,
So what I would say is, when we call
Yeah.
these, just read them. And say, you know, based on what we saw, this is how we're going to do this. I tend to agree these tend to go in terms of that. And I think that, you know, just to first year has been and I'm wondering if that's something we might not want in everyone. But again, it's just something for us to think about right now. And that's the fun of when we present it. Oh, that's like professional development. It's there, and it's there. Great idea. We'll figure that out. That's a good thing when we see that synergy. Do you need tape? Do you need tape? Yes. All you need is, look at that.
We started rewriting and then that probably.
It felt so wasteful.
fiscally sound,
Wait, I think we used that. We have
and promotes, and promotes engagement.
no, we have encourages.
Yes.
You're right.
Well, because it's about the low.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be like that. I know, I'm like, I want it to be encourage. I just don't want to see. Oh, I gotta get my resource.
progressive, yes. Yeah, one way, one another.
I know.
Whatever that is.
You know who's going to present.
Dave and I already.
I love being a speaker tonight.
The good news is we're going to regroup after this. You have.
No, and I was in,
I was so ridiculous.
definitely my vision was down. After that, a little bit, I was.
Reminder, I'm going in and rolling out, so 5:15. Roughly by 5:30.
She's definitely the way.
Almost ready?
Oh.
I don't, so I work out tomorrow.
Ready?
Yes.
Ready? Yes, ready. Awesome. Let's come back to our seats.
What that lunch looks like.
Any group want to start? Yeah, let's hang them. Let's hang these. Let's hang them. Oh, sounds a little bit violent.
When it comes down to it,
Now, when you get some, right? That's the story, Aaron.
yeah, Yeah, just leave it with you, join us.
Oh, do you? Oh, unless someone left them. Oh, I thought you guys left. Oh, it is.
Ron, I thought of some things for the facilities. Okay, the water will long enough to wash the soap off your hands.
Talk to Jordan.
What's your?
Jordan, I've been telling you that the whole time.
Oh, I started the water isn't long.
But I did this, so I didn't hear some sports.
Oh, that's like, I critique the inches of paper that come out of the toilet, I mean, that come out of the handle. You know what, I honestly think if it were 3 inches longer, people would get it twice. I think, and so I always. That is. All right.
That one's got it. That's a cartridge.
So,
Bring it back.
here is where we have to go back to our norms. I guarantee you're going to disagree with some things coming up here. And here's the bottom line. We have months to make a final decision. So this isn't hard and fast tonight. What I would suggest is, ask, do you think this question, I mean, what I mean by that is, ask, do you think we need to think about this? Do you think we need to think about this? And I'll take notes so that we're able to capture some of the ideas that we have. So I want to just reaffirm, this is not set in stone, but what this is meant to do tonight is get us percolating around where we are seeing synergy. Like I was excited to see continuous improvement cycles over here. And I said to operations, do you think that that is something district-wide? You know, to start some conversations around some topics. We're not trying to make it, okay, we're done. So this is all about just starting to get some initial thoughts down. How about, because I think teaching and learning will be a long conversation, a longer conversation. And by the way, we tonight because the basis of this conversation will go next time. Let's start with workforce engagement. How about that one? Let's start with that. Who's going to present on this one?
I will.
Awesome. And I'm going to take some notes. Now, your job as listeners, ask critical questions. I think we might be. Who got this? You want it higher?
Kevin regrets immediately.
Do you want me to start with a summary or just what we?
No, start with the summary.
Okay. So the summary of all the feedback from all the buckets for workforce engagement were as follows. Compensation plan and structure, attractive compensation and benefits, attractive benefits, PTO salary, pay and benefits, see I wrote these and I don't remember, retirement celebration, retirement strategies, benefits and Merton perks, recognition, build and foster culture, trust and engagement of staff, reinvest in staff, continued learning, professional development, an environment of trust and engagement, validating professionalism, professional development planning, and recruitment and retention.
So just as we were doing that, I bet all of you had your eye on a couple buckets, right? What's a bucket that you would, when you hear what was just read, what's a bucket that's going to emerge? Don't even look at what they are. What's a bucket that's going to emerge?
Compensation.
Yeah, a salary retention plan that deals with compensation and benefits is going to emerge based on simply what was there. What's another one that you would say, based on what you heard, might emerge?
I heard there was the celebration part, that is different than some of the other things.
Yeah, that idea of culture, right? You know, we're gonna recognize, we're gonna work on an engagement and culture idea. And again, I'm talking in just bucket language, not precise language. So what did you end up with?
So from that summary, the collection led us to the following pillars from our perspective. Would be 1, build an attractive and competitive compensation and benefits plan. 2, develop and implement a recruitment and retention plan. And then 3, build and foster a culture that promotes trust, includes professional development, and encourages staff engagement and collaboration.
Awesome. So, yeah, time out. Yeah, oh, clap, right. Great. You guys did an awesome job of taking and synthesizing, right? Now, let's ask some questions. I'll ask a question just to model what I'm hoping we all do. And again, we're going to continue this next time. I'm wondering if professional development is going to be called out in teaching and learning. And if so, is that enough? And do we need it here as a separate item? You know, do we need it as a separate? Because the only thing that I say that about is it was really called out in the last plan. If you remember, development was called out. And I also want to say that if we put it in teaching and learning, it won't impact your staff all that much. So you want to think about, we want professional development for all of our employees, not just teachers. So we have to think about it with a broader lens. And maybe that's enough, and that's one of the questions that we can ask. So let's give them some positives and some questions. What are some things where you think they hit the mark? Meaning, this is right on target.
Compensation benefits and PTO conversations.
Agreed. Agreed. Where else?
I would echo that too. I would say build an attractive compensation plan. I mean, I think if you have that, you look at that when you're, that's ultimately when you would look for another job. What's their compensation, but if you have that compensation at the district you work at, you're gonna retain people.
What do you see as different in a recruitment and retention plan?
I was gonna say that bullet 1 and 2 to me seem redundant. Like if we have an attractive, competitive compensation and benefits plan, like, is that the same, is that what would recruit and retain people to be here? Like if we develop one, do we not need a separate plan to recruit and retain people because we're going to recruit and retain them?
We
because
spent quite a bit of time having that exact conversation. And we ultimately decided on separating them because there's essentially the dollars and the intangibles from the perspective of it, right? And both things are important. And, you know, like, speaking from a personal perspective, you know, like, an attractive comp plan, you know, is good, but if someone's offering me 8% more in the next district over, that might not be worth giving up the community and engagement that I feel here. So if we can approach both of those things, because I think one of the concepts that emerged in one of our conversations a few weeks ago was the idea of investment in the teachers, into their role and into the school, and or staff, not just teachers, but then in the same back, right? So if you can reciprocate that relationship and facilitate that would work. But they have to work in tandem. They're not, no one's gonna work for free. No one's gonna stay here if it's, you know, toxic or gross or mean or angry, or I'm not getting to develop and grow the way that I want to. So yeah, we ultimately decided that they're worth calling out. Will they stay separate? I don't know, because I do feel there's a force pulling them together, and it is gonna boil down to, I think, what actions line up underneath them.
And we felt that it was enough to put on its own compensation and benefits, but there'd likely be hopefully more to someone looking for a job than just the pay, but the satisfaction of the role, more things that were important to them in addition to pay that might lead them somewhere, like once we get to a positive culture, or things about working together, other things that are feel-goods that create the holistic plan of why would someone take a certain job.
Yeah, we
I
saw
think it's the easiest way to separate those two, because the very first one, like you said, punching a time clock, it's getting paid better. The second one is looking forward to going in the morning. I'm respected, people are investing in me, investing in my career, so
That seems
they
like
are
the third
separate.
one to me.
Well, I think too with the second one is there was a lot of feedback on, you know, celebrations and engagement in that way. And so those, again, those intangible perks outside of pay and benefits. Well, culture, to me, culture is more you're fostering trust, you're fostering engagement, you're invested in professional development. So that second bucket to me was like more like perks, if you will.
I understand. And this is really good this is happening right now, because what's going to occur at the next meeting is that we are going to start to say, so these are some actions for next year that would take place under this strategic objective. So that then we can really say, well, wait a minute, does recognition go here or here? You know what I mean? So we're going to start to do that, and then it will become, these things are crazy, even better in terms of doing that. But for tonight, let's just get a broad brush. But do you see where we're heading on that? So you're going to start to say, no, this would be under there, this would be under there, this would be under there. Go ahead.
Intangibles for some of these, we talk about what it would be like to work here, so something that I think other districts use is they've built themselves to be and then they can use that for recruiting
Yes.
as well. So that, I think, would be a long plan that takes a while to build.
Yep. And that is precisely what we'll do. What would be things that would fill, fill these, if those are our strategic objective buckets, what fills them then? Awesome job, let's give them a round of applause. And all of you, nice
Hey, Joy, just 1 second. Something came across in 2024, the most recent study came across from, I don't know, some college. Employees, ways to retain appreciation, that feel like they're achieving, growing, rewarded, autonomous, cared about, respected, included, and purpose-driven.
Yep.
Way to go, group. I mean, pretty much
Yep.
everything was.
Awesome job.
So, very good job.
And I would say, and again, my validation, this is your plan, not mine, but I really felt like culture needed to emerge out of this one. So I'm really glad that it did, and in fact, it's kind of in 2 buckets, but we're gonna think about what that looks like. What are those pieces that fit in each of those buckets? And maybe we will merge them, maybe we won't, but those are things to come. And I've gotta shut up because we're not gonna finish in time. How about if we do community engagement next?
I'll talk really fast. Okay, so our items on buckets were plan to foster increased community engagement, community interactions with partners, community involvement or outreach, partnership with municipalities, parent engagement, non-parents in the school, such as Veterans Day, Grandparents' Day, Career Day, etc. And then streamline communication, marketing, public relations, communication planning, build brand awareness and school visibility, community communication or newsletter, and then create community communication plan and execute on the plan. So, as I said them, you probably realized how we grouped them. So we talked about community engagement being something around a communication plan with maybe what did you call them, support legs of promotion or public relations, something with our family communication method, and something with our broader communication method. So how are we communicating with people who have kids here, and then how are we communicating with people who don't have kids here? And then for our other one was something about increasing our broader community engagement. So what are opportunities for student community partnerships or the broader community involvements into our school?
Interesting. What's some feedback? What are some things you like about what they said or agree with or feel like, yeah, that's heading in the right direction? Always start with the positives.
I feel like it hones in on a lot of what we saw in the survey feedback, which is that the community's asking for more streamlined communication, ways to receive information. So I feel like you hit that on the head.
So public relations is that like dealing with village and other tax-funded local
Up here,
agencies?
communication
Yeah.
plan. So that one came from, there was a specific one on there about marketing or public relations, and then one on there about like build brand awareness. And so we talked about like what's going on in our social media, like when people think of Merton, they think of what? What have we branded ourselves as being to our community? How are we getting ourselves in a positive light into the news? How are we getting ourselves in a positive light into what people are talking about when they talk about Merton School, is how I took these. I don't know how to do that. But
Yeah, my personal
Steve told me
opinion on that is.
I can hire a public relations person.
He said that was your job.
He tried to roll it into my job. I said, I think in 5 years we could hire that person. And somebody
So
else
when you
did
think
that
of
for us.
community, you're thinking of jobs.
I'll
That's it.
volunteer.
Sorry, Jordan.
Parents and greater communities. I think we've always talked about community. In this one, we talked about community engagement. There's an arm with families, and there's an arm with people not having children in school. And
Which is still families.
I guess I took it as
rather than.
community as everyone in our community as a
Yep.
taxpayer. And how do we say, hooray, thank you, whether you have kids in the school or not, you're contributing and please be part of this Mustang's brand with
And that's
us.
where we started talking about what are our opportunities for partnerships. And we talked about wanting to increase student opportunities. And
there's a
like,
word that might emerge.
my grandma belongs to a knitting club, and they meet at Starbucks, but could they meet at Merton School? And if some kids wanted to learn knitting, they could come knit with the older generation, and suddenly you have intergenerational
Yeah.
extracurriculars,
See, that's
like,
Woo, that's so exciting.
right? Like, these opportunities should exist, but we have to build the capacity for that, right? We have to advertise that that's an opportunity.
I like
Great.
that they feed each of the parts feed each other, so broader community but also that, well, you're not welcome just to walk in any time of the day, you can have ideas about how you can engage.
I like the idea too of the promoting the PR component helps us to share our mission and values through those communications. So it raises awareness of who we are and what we stand for.
Way to connect to mission.
Yeah, I heard the word branding up here a number of times. Is that separate or part of the communication plan, a
That's
whole branding strategy?
Public relation, that's
Okay.
PR.
All right. So that's what you meant by that, creating a consistent, long-term brand.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't say creating, I think it'd be growing it. I think we have a pretty strong, I think that was called out by you in one of the early mission and visions. I agree that it exists, but, you know, just, you know, growing it, the community is growing, you know, making sure that we're reaching out to everyone.
Okay.
Continue to do that. And things like, what was it, the cardboard arcade from a few weeks ago, that was really cool, you know, seeing in the news. So
Our
just
best piece of PR for a
stuff,
while.
yeah, stuff, lots of good stuff like that. So.
Cool.
Yeah, just explain what that was to me.
They
I'm gonna
made-
do an audible, and I
He
think
was on
that
the news.
this is hard, because I'd love to continue, but I wanna make sure that we get to the other parts of the agenda, so we may come back to this. But know that we will do this with teaching and learning as well as facilities and ops at the next meeting if we don't finish it tonight. But this is exactly what we're going to be doing now, a little less small group work and a more feedback large group, so that we're able to really vet some ideas. So at the next meeting, just to talk about it, we'll have the other two groups present, and then we're gonna do a round robin with, what does it look like? If we end up with these three, what fills the bucket? So what are we looking at, so that we're really crystal clear about this? And this will be great, because then by the time the strategic plan survey comes back, we'll be able to vet, did we hit the nail on the head with what we believe is the case based on what that survey is telling us. So we are like primed to make great decisions in the next month, which is awesome. I just wanna compliment you. I really appreciate how you've distilled this. Sometimes when I've done this activity in other places, we end up with 28 different strategic objectives. And it's like, if everything's important, nothing gets done. And so I really appreciate that you're trying to really think in those buckets very tightly, because in a district your size, quite frankly, you have to. You have to. You don't have someone who's the sole process owner of communications, which is a mixed blessing. Sometimes it's good when it's everyone's job, and sometimes it's not good. So, all I know, no, I'm not gonna say that. I know I didn't want it, I know I didn't want that.
We recorded it.
So, Brian, can you talk a little bit about the survey?
Okay, so I did email that to everybody. You probably noticed that it was a lot shorter than the first one. We spent a lot of time really trying to narrow it down, because, you know, the shorter the survey is, more people will actually take it and finish it. So, and then we spent a lot of time on the language, a lot of good feedback last time. So the two big things you're gonna see there is just the language has been more tightly controlled and really reduced the number of questions. The one section that blew up a little bit is the communication area. So I have some branching in there, because we had people who work here, we had parents, we had community, then we had parents who work here. So that was the other one, and that's the largest section, because it has to ask questions about, you know, as a parent and then as a employee. So that was really
Can
bad.
I interrupt and say, what a cool problem to have, that you need a section of that survey that is specific to people that both work here and live here. I mean, that's an amazing gift. There would be places where that would never, ever even come up. And that's a really cool, like I said, that's a really cool survey problem to have. That there's that much of a critical mass that you wanna make sure you capture that voice is really cool. Really, really cool. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I thought you were gonna go into Baldrige about how that says something about the quality of the education. People who work here want their kids to go here. So it's like a quality factor in kind of a Baldrige term, so. We're gonna get this turned out as quickly as we can. There'll be a URL, I'll share that with everybody, because we're gonna talk at the end about ambassadors. I got code that you can put in, so it's right on the website, and then I got a QPR code that we can publish too, so people can take pictures of that, and it's built so you can do it on laptop, computer, phone, and tablet. So, I tried it on the phone, you gotta page a little bit, but you can get to it, so. And every time there's a write-in, you know, a text box, that's an open thing. I don't force anybody to do that, but a lot of questions are, you know, we want people to answer them, and we don't let them go on until they say, you know, something about whatever that is. So there's a lot of checks in there to get feedback. So we went from about 30 minutes down to about 15, 16 minutes, so that was a good move. Were there any questions when you guys saw that? Okay. But great feedback last time, I do appreciate it. Well, I appreciate it, and I'm moaning because I had to do a lot of work. Being truthful.
If there's if anyone looked at it, and I look at you because you offered us, so many people offered us great feedback. No. Can I just tell you, I mean it as a compliment.
Yeah.
If there are things that you want us to look at again, let us know. Because these are always really personalized. You can never really take one from point A and use it in point B.
And it's a balancing act, because you do want to get as much information as you can, but the more you ask, the less you get.
Right.
So let's spend a moment just discussing, we talked about this in generalities last time. I want to take some notes, and Ron, then I'll talk with you about it. We could get this out to families, we can get this out to staff. That's really the least of our worries. We'll get a good narrative around that. But what are different ways we can get it? And we brainstormed on some before, to people without children in school. What are some things that we need to do to really get that in people's mind to do it?
Well, I've already talked to the village, and so they're on board. Actually, they're on board with a lot of the upcoming possible communication plans together as well. So we'll be good there.
Robert, you talk to them, can we put pictures of the QR code there? Because I was thinking they can send it out, but also people come in and there's a.
Yep, so we'll be able to put, I mean, we can also have them, we can put the QR codes in our offices and make things easier too. So I obviously know the HOAs, I can start to reach out to the HOAs as well, if they exist.
Well, the other thing too, along those lines, a lot of them have their own Facebook page, those neighborhoods.
Right,
So
yeah.
I'm sure you probably belong to a couple of those. You could put it on the Facebook stuff and get it to go there. Huh?
Well, HOA and I run our Facebook page.
Anyone else have
Do you
ideas?
have any kind of a flyer with a QR code? Like, I live in a subdivision that doesn't have an HOA. It's a lot of older houses without kids in our communities, without in our schools. That I can just throw from the mailbox.
Yes, we'll make sure that you get that.
Well, when we talk to the village, what about the town? Because the new people, I live in the town, so I don't necessarily get anything from the village.
Right.
So if you
I can push out to the town of Merton. What's that?
Is the whole town of Merton in the district?
No. The town of Merton is huge.
Right.
I can help disseminate to, Parkland Meadows.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, and I don't know the answer on that, but I agree with you. I think we can try and think about what can we do with some flyers in neighborhoods and like.
You know, we can put something up at the library, the town of Merton Library. The same thing we would put up at the village hall.
You know, it might be worthwhile in some of the communications that's going out to parents, that they're, get what you get, a call to action, you maybe attach a flyer, ask to print and to distribute in their neighborhoods if they want.
Like weekly folders that go home or whatever?
Yeah, or raise the craze, whatever it's called, raise praise to social engagement, bring that, close that loop.
I think you went over my head, raise the craze?
PTO fundraiser thing, yeah.
Stick the QR codes on the kids' Girl Scout cookie order forms.
Let's come to the boxes of cookies.
Yes.
Here's your cookies, here's your code.
You don't get your cookies until you do the survey.
I think we have to maybe be more strategic about distribution though, because if it is appearing everywhere, will that be will people kind of be numb to it?
Like notification fatigue.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like if I'm getting sick, if I got 6 flyers because I you know, there's 6 kids that live in my neighborhood and every kid wanted to do that, I would like start throwing those things in the trash.
It could do
Might
with
be a
the
good problem to have, I don't know.
I don't know, like, from,
Yeah,
I'm
we're-
curious,
but
from a
this-
survey taker perspective, if you got
You
just
might
like
get 6, somebody might
harassed,
only get 1.
or some might not get any, so do we need to be more strategic in how we're approaching
What
that?
I've seen is, I doubt we will have fatigue over
Okay.
flyers, but I do think that there is a critical number of emails that are sent to families, right? And so we have to be strategic, like the research says that a Sunday night is a great time. You know, that there are certain times, and you really don't wanna send it every day or every other day. You know, it's about rule of 3.
Yeah.
You know, once, and then a reminder, and then one more time the day before it closes, and that's it. Because that's where I think you see more fatigue is with email than you do with flyer. It'd be great if we had flyer fatigue, but I doubt we will.
And I'm sorry if I should know this, how long is the window open for?
We're gonna aim for 2 weeks.
Okay.
So we're gonna plan a lot of this week and try to get it deployed next week, so that we're able to, you know, once we deploy that we've got the flyers, that we've got those things. I would talk to you about newsletter, you know, or those types of things, in terms of trying to take advantage of that. So we'll call you and then we'll get that orchestrated.
I mean, if it's done by next Wednesday, we always have a slew of parents who are gonna be in the primary school for Valentine's parties.
Well, that's true.
That's where we get.
We'll aim for that.
And the parents are gonna be the easy ones,
Yes.
Yeah.
right? Whether they wanna take it and things like that, because,
It's always more engaged.
I mean, we had, you know, a third, 40% of our parent population take the school perception survey, so, which was really good return.
I was thinking that messaging wise, we need to remind people that this is, because they just took the school perception survey, that this is a survey based, that this is not a, we just did school perception, I don't understand why I'm doing this again, is this the same thing? This is not the same survey, and it is based on the feedback that came from the focus groups.
Yep.
So I think that's, I don't know how to message that part, but I do think people will not, they don't know, not everybody knows we're doing this.
Right.
Or remember, they know that they don't remember. So when they get the survey.
That's a
they're
really
gonna
good
think
point,
that
thank you.
We just did this.
And she hit on an idea that had been floating in my head too, is like the tiling of this, maybe you talked about this last week with all your other edits. Like, what I'm worried about, we do all these flyers, do all these emails, and it's like, well, I don't have kids in the school, why am I gonna do this, right? Like, is there a titling, phrasing, wording that we can put the emphasis on the community? Because, I mean, we are potentially looking at a community engagement builder, so having feedback from whatever, I don't have kids here, whatever that word is, would be good to have that, so that they know that it's inclusive to them too.
Like a community stakeholder emphasis, that they understand it's different than a parent stakeholder.
I mean, it is the Merton Community School District, right, is the technical,
Exactly, yeah.
technical name for it, so.
Are there community questions about like things like Veterans Day or something? Continuing community.
Fill out the surveys, your taxes don't
Things
go
that
up.
were kind of brought up with our community engagement. Will there be things where they feel like, oh, the school district is looking to foster these new relationships with, you know, intergenerational experiences to quote?
As much as we love to drill down those kind of specific details, it would make the thing longer. So basically, there's a section on how you want to be talked to, how you want to be communicated as a community member, and some open text boxes for them to fill out if they want to have some ideas about that.
Just
So,
But I think it would be interesting, sorry, I like what you said though, maybe we could think about with that group, a question about how they wanna be communicated with as in one way, and how do they wanna partner or be, you know, how might they like to be partner and engaged? And quite frankly, we could leave that one open.
Sure.
So that one could be open-ended, and that might be beneficial.
It would be interesting to see if there would be people that would be.
Yeah.
What opportunity
Yeah,
is
I
it
wanna
for
volunteer.
people to come through our doors if they don't have kids?
feedback from community.
How do they wanna, I mean, I think the question is, how would they like to be engaged or partner with the school district, you know, with their resources of time, you know, or something like that?
Or how do they see their,
You know,
how,
report.
Okay.
how can community engagement through
Just
facilities be?
Yeah.
What would their ultimate goals be? Like,
Yeah.
do they wanna have their club here, whatever? So I like the open end.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would work. Thank you. I really, thank you all. This is really enjoyable work, and I appreciate the commitment. So we will, just to get this down, this week, we'll work on crafting the message around it, all the, all the QR code, those types of things. And make sure that those things are done, get around a packet to deploy, and then aim to deploy sometime next week, so that we've got a good 2-week window that we can really use as a good springboard. And I think it's a good time, it's, before spring break, I think we're at a really good critical time. And I wanna lower your expectations. On a survey like this, sometimes you don't get the same participation that you have with school perceptions, A. And secondly, there will be a lot in this survey that is validating and not a lot of new information, often. You'll find a nugget of a great idea or a wording, but it won't be as, I was gonna say revelatory. It won't be as much of a revelation, in terms of.
That's a real word.
I know, isn't it that? So, here's,
28 Scrabble points.
I have down that at our next meeting, which is Tuesday, February 20th, is that right?
Yep.
We're going to continue what we're doing with drafting the pillars, just like we did. We're gonna pick up from where we left off, and then give an update on the strategic plan survey. Maybe we'll know at that point in time who's taken it thus far. I hope, we'll see, but 20th isn't that far. And then we're going to really work on drafting some goal language if we have time. But the biggest thing that's important for us to do is really have a good engaging conversation around, is it 3 objectives? Is it 2? What's in there? So what does that look like? So that will be the big work next time. I hope that's clear. We'll get into that work. And look at teaching and learning. 5, we got a lot to discuss. And that one is the biggest one, of course. And the other thing we'll do next time we're together is set up future meetings.
Can we do that now?
Sure.
If that works?
Because do we have anything set up for the 20th?
No, well, everything's set up the 20th, anything going into April.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. We've got March 5th and March 19th.
I was making sure,
Okay, no.
okay.
Can I throw out a date? April 18th.
It's fine with me.
Okay, I just have to tell you,
What's
this
the
never
worst?
happens.
April, baseball season starts then, and so I'm not sure what schedules are gonna look like.
Tuesdays were historically better for this group.
Sometimes
Yes.
it's Monday, Wednesday.
Nothing
right.
on Tuesday. Thursday is balanced, but Tuesday.
Right, the 16th.
I think Tuesdays were good too.
All of our meetings have been on Tuesdays,
Tuesdays.
so is that possible, the 16th?
I can't do the 16th, but I could do the 23rd.
Okay. Can't do the 23rd, but that's okay.
So then we'll have a month between.
Why do you feel
Is
that?
that-
Why not the ninth?
Is that,
There are no sports.
Can we go back
Right.
to the night?
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're gonna.
We'll check on the 9th.
Yeah, we'll put it on the ninth.
And then May, if we do the 23rd, do you want to go 7/21?
So we're spacing 4 weeks at that
No,
point?
they said it's from the 23rd.
No. I've got April 23rd,
Okay.
So the ninth possibly and the 23rd?
correct?
Okay.
And I'll write these down.
What was the meeting? Sorry.
7th is fine. I'm on the last 2 weeks of
So,
the
what was it?
May 7,
7th and
21?
Where you put it down in pencil?
So far,
Oh, yeah.
23rd.
Lock it in.
Goes right in.
Final
All right,
answer.
I'll confirm these.
it's gonna be rough.
7th and 21st.
So right now, we're checking on
Here the 7th.
April 9th. I can't be here April 9th. We have to check if Brian can be. And if we need to do some small groups, by that time you might be able to, I guess at that point facilitation may not be the biggest issue, it might just be time. the 23rd of April we have, and then we've got May 7th and 21st. And I'll confirm these in a minute.
Yeah, the Tuesdays in May are gonna be tough for me, just in the all.
What about Monday?
All the days, all the schools.
If April stuff for you guys, maybe we kick those back to Thursday or no? I mean, just suggesting a different day in April, if you guys can do it.
I want to keep tight on time for tonight, so here's what I'll do is, if you could come to the next meeting, you know, with indicating, so that we have a good sense of April 7th, April 9th, who could be, who can't, you know, and then we'll make the accommodations if we see we've got a critical mass not there for any of those
Doodle
nights.
polls for here's today's and, coming in.
I can do a doodle poll, sure. Don't worry, I'll get it to you, just I'll do it.
Don't worry.
Don't worry, it'll be
I
okay.
was a little worried
You,
too.
Stacy, click on whenever you're available.
Yeah,
That's all you
it's
do.
like a quick Google survey we can deploy to you saying I'm available or not available.
Look who's talking.
All right, hey, I just wanna tell you, on behalf of Brian and myself, we are kicking butt. This is really in good shape for where we are right now. Very, very happy with the work that you are doing. We are like, we're gonna make it, I'm just telling you. We're gonna make it and have a really good plan.
We are the AT.
You are, this is awesome. Have a good night, drive safely.
So I understand, Joanne,
You are very welcome. Thank you for all of the input you are offering.
Joanne,
Thank you.
when we meet again on the 20th, would you